My name is Myrtle Williams. Do I need to tell where I live?
You can if you like.
Oh, and I live on 2211 6th Street Northeast in the Winter Haven area. He did a lot of stuff. Well, when I first came into Winter Haven, I came in looking for a job, and my first job was Winter Haven Hospital. I think I did that story downtown
Okay.
as far as the Winter Haven Hospital job-wise. But then as far as my husband, now the truth about him is he was a resident of Florence Villa, and I was a resident of Bartow, Florida. He was a student at Jewett High School, and I was a student at Union Academy in Bartow. But in the meantime, there were a group of boys that always played hooky from school at Jewett and came on the Union Academy campus, and the principal would always have to run them away. So that was my first knowledge of knowing him. Well, in my when I came to Winter Haven, well, he was not a stranger to me because at that time, even after they got out of high school, there was a man in the Bartow area that had a baseball team called the Polk County All-Stars, and that same group of boys traveled there to play on that team. So when I came to Winter Haven, I guess that was the site. So then when we were married, we lived on Avenue Q, Northwest, and my landlord was Mr. Joel Wilbert, which was Patty Wilbert's father. So we rented from him for about 11 years before we moved to 6th Street, so I've been to 6th Street ever since. But then even at that, there were a group of men in the area that had a baseball team called the Villa Stars. And believe it or not, they played right in front of where we lived, which is the Jewett's, I guess, PE ground now. But I don't know whether that belonged. I don't know who that property belonged to, but it didn't belong to the school board. So this is where they played baseball.
Okay.
And started Little League and team for ladies, softball team, and all that happened right in front of my house. You saying, wow,
Yes. It's incredible.
he was supervisor
Okay.
of the recreation center, which was the same building. And he did a lot of stuff. Well, then, in the midst of this being the recreation center, on the other side was a little a basketball court where the kids would come and play. So he even had basketball, little league ball for kids. Then, and in this building, it was total recreation where the kids could come in the afternoon after school, and it stayed open until early evening, I'd say early night. And then he would uh, create activities for the kids.
Oh.
And even in the summertime, I don't know whether it was a school board involved, but then they had summer recreation where kids who were qualified would have jobs in the summer. The students would have jobs in the summer, and they would do like art and craft. And of course, I got sick of the tea rings coming to my house. So that was one and then he would have, on the weekend, what they termed record hops, where the kids could come and they would have activities like dancing. And of course, I didn't deal too much with that until one time where he would but that was fundraising. And then in that fundraising, he would give, like, maybe the churches would be trying to raise it. He would open that up and allow them to come and participate in the record hop setup. And that means that they could be responsible for what goes on. And as long as they gave the disc jockey his pay, they got the rest of the money.
Oh, wow.
So in that way, he reached out to the churches, and it was funny. The one person lived next door to me belonged to a church, and she wanted to do it. And of course, he said she couldn't do it unless I came around here. And that particular night, I came around here to assist her. And this is when I found out that the children would not dance unless they danced in the dark. But I refused to cut the lights out. So he came to check on us. And I says, well, these kids are the band playing the music, and they're not dancing. He says, they're not going to dance with the lights out. So that created a problem for me, because then I didn't know how safe that was for the kids. So we sort of kind of had conversations about that, and I wonder how the parents would feel if they found out that that's what was going on. So, and he did that until they built the new recreation center.
Oh, wow.
Well, I was born in Bartow, Florida, and believe it or not, I had to live up under what we call a preacher.
Mhm.
So that was great restrictions for me. But I pulled through it. And there was a thing with us, you weren't allowed to pat your feet to the jug music, and you wasn't allowed to go to activities, other than church activities. So that's how I grew up. Believe it or not, late teenage.
Okay.
I might have been about 18. Mhm. And at that time, I watched a lot of changes. Because with me coming here, I lived up in Florence Villa, where there was nothing but one paved street. Everything else was dirt roads. Avenues and streets were dirt roads.
So,
That's when it was called Florence Villa.
mhm.
Mhm. But I moved through, and I participated with, like school activities, because I had kids in school. First Street was the main street, and we had all kinds of businesses. So I can recall Henley Groceries, Fraser's Cab, um, American Legion Post 201, the Elks. You had two cleaners, one set on one side and the other set on the other. I think Broxy, I think that was his name, Mr. Broxy, is operated on one side. But the other one on the other side was operated by the grandmother of Glenda, who operated this neighborhood service center. Then you had, I think she's been in here, Whitey Adams. Her father had a grocery store on that street. They had about two pool rooms on that street, and a dry goods store. And then there was what they call a C&C grocery. Before that was in the area where you see Masonic Lodge. It was in that area. So been a lot of changes. And there was on this side of the Elks, it was a fish market. And of course, Boyd's funeral home was on that street before it moved on. Then you had, I think I mentioned Fraser's Care, but then we had Villa Care. I mean, Fraser was operated by Fraser family, But the Villa Care was operated by several people who
Okay.
moved in with cabs just being there. And that was one mode of transportation. But then the other mode of transportation we had when we came here was what we call a transit bus, where you got on the bus and you dropped, I think, like about a quarter in a slot, because it was cheaper to get on the bus than it was a ride in the cab. The bus was a quarter, but the cab was 50 cents.
Oh, wow.
Happiest moment in my life is knowing that I came here. I was able to live here and marry, create a family, watch my children grow up in the school system. And of course, I was able to participate as president of and back in the days, I guess, like in the early, 50s and 60s, we had what we call a mother's club of mothers that pulled themselves together, and we would travel through the school system and help support the school with like crayons, paper, and we did that through the Mother's Club. And of course, talking about that, the same young lady that was back here, Miss Hunter, her father was always the president of beginning. And of course, at that time, the beginning of it, the school was up there on First Street. He was always the president.
Oh, yeah.
So we were able to work through that together. And of course, the fundraisers, the city would allow us to participate in the Citrus Exposition that was held on Lake Silver in that area. We always had a booth there where we could sell and raise funds for the PTA.
Oh.
Well, the Citrus Exposition, was pertaining to people who dealt or owned citrus groves. Because then I was exposed to that too, where those people, the same building, Normal Hall, all those people would gather up there during the week at night, and I was able to work up there with a person that catered, and those people would have their sessions up there while everybody else walked the grounds, spending money. So that was an experience for me, you know. But they would really get together and but they were citrus growers, owners.
Okay.
The last story I would like to share is that I was proud to be able to live long enough to see that they appreciated my husband's struggles with what he did for the community to name the park around the afternoon. That was excitement because he actually, it was not easy for me, but in the beginning to operate this with Little League, softball and all that stuff, he actually would go and beg monies from businesses to buy uniforms and things for those children. So that was, so I was excited to see that happen. At least that kept him away from home and kept me at home because I had kids. So it was good to see that the city thought enough of that to, after almost 20 years of death, it happened.